Hi there, my name is Brenda Finley or Miss Finley. I am the co-owner of Finley Feather Farm and the Jackson County Ag in the Classroom coordinator. So here today I have a lesson to talk to you about, and it is horses. So right here I have our Ag Mag, and it covers different topics about horses. You have different sizes, and it says like measure up right here. Talks about the different sizes and the different categories for horses, ponies, whether or not they're lightweight or heavyweight horses right there. And then it talks about them and goes through how the size of a hand is and discusses that. So that right there alone can be a great activity that you could do for students. Maybe measure them and see how tall they would be in hands as maybe like a horse. And then over here we have the terms of horses. It just talks about what a breed is, maybe a colt, equine of course, and then it talks about mare, and then mustangs and tack and so forth. And at the bottom we have marking match. So it's just a little bit of an activity. You could talk about like the different markings on their faces, maybe what colors horses can come in, and different patterns in general, and discuss that with your students. And then on the inside it just gives a little bit about history, and on the other side it kind of just goes for maybe grooming, and then it talks about horses in Illinois, and then at the bottom it talks about like horseshoes, and it goes forth to like what do they eat, and it's just a little bit of everything with horse facts on the back and some careers. And then of course you have some good books that could go along with this lesson. And I'm going to jump in real quick on what I do whenever I teach a horse lesson. So it's kind of similar for all of the grades within like K through 5th. I may just go a little more in depth whenever I go to 5th grade, and then I may not be able to go in as far in depth with kindergartners or first graders. But first off, I like to talk about horses and talk about like the different sizes, and then talk about their different colors that they can come in, and kind of go from there. Maybe throw in some terms as well, just so they can get that get used to them, get familiar, just the simple ones like what is a mature female horse, what's a mature male, and what are the young horses called, and go from there. I also do like to, the main reason why I like to go into like the different patterns, like what it has on the front. We don't necessarily cover the names of the patterns because some students on the younger levels may not be able to familiarize themselves with them just yet, but I do have a sheet that I give them, and it has the names on them just in case they kind of want to try to use the terms. But my main idea is that they come in different sizes, different patterns. And the reason why I say that is because I have here is a hand puppet activity, and this is one that I did, and I have a different one that I'll show you in a second. But it's open at the top, which is just to create like the effect for the ears. It's super simple. You can kind of see it, but with this activity, they can go in and you can have them make different markings, and then you can talk to them at that point, maybe what they chose to kind of use on their horse to make it more of their own. And this is the other horse that I did. I used a cow print paper bag for that one, and it's not as pretty, but it is definitely unique. And so with this one I could talk about maybe different breeds as well. So this could be maybe a pate horse. You could try swinging that, Appaloosa, something in there. And here is kind of like the template that I use. I just go in and I mark down and across and then up again, and then I just use marker right here to kind of color out that area to show the students that they could just toss that in the trash. And then at the bottom they cut directly across, and it's on both sides with up here and down here as well. They cut all the bottom off because their arms aren't going to be able to go all the way in there. You could probably leave it if you'd like, but here at the bottom, we're going to make a half circle cut on both sides. And then they're going to keep this half circle. So, of course, there's a little indentation there. They don't have to use this piece, but they could use the one on the back that cuts with it as well. And so they can use the back side, and it would look like this. So they keep this piece, and they take it. So this one's already been cut at the top, and so they take it, and this lip right here, the bottom of the bag, they'll glue this onto it right there, and they'll leave a little bit hanging off if they'd like. It doesn't have to be perfect, but kind of gives that effect right there to create a bit of like a mouth kind of going on, maybe like a, you know, the muzzle. And of course you can turn this activity into anything you'd like to do, but here's the previous one that's already done to show you what I'm talking about. That's the half circle. It's glued on there, but it's not glued to the back right here. It's just glued right here. And so students may have trouble with that. And then inside the bag that I have that's ready for them to cut, before I have them start cutting it, they will go in and pull out yarn. So I have 4 short pieces, and you can do this however you'd like. It could be longer pieces, but I do just kind of cut it. As I'm preparing all the bags, I just do 4 short pieces. Size doesn't really matter too much, but some that are shorter, some that are longer, and these are my longer pieces. There's 4 there as well. And then I have them just glue it to the front and the back, and they leave this open here. And what they're doing with that, they can just glue it on there. It doesn't have to be perfect like I said, but if they do want this kind of like curly effect, they can pull the pieces of yarn apart. Just take one piece and start pulling the little strands. It's up to you if you'd like your students to do that, or if you want to show them how, that's perfectly fine. Just it's up to you. It doesn't have to be exactly like I have it going here, but it does help kind of create more of a hair-like effect whenever the strands are pulled apart. So that's what I have. I have it prepped for them. It's super easy. Go in, they pull the yarn out, separate the sizes into 2 groups. They cut, they toss the trash pieces in the trash, they keep the half circle, then everything's set for them to just glue it on there. Then first I ask them about like, what do you see on my bag that's not on this bag yet? Or in this case, on this bag. They could go on and talk about how they don't have eyes on it, they don't have a nose on it, and then that's when you go in and you tell them to go ahead and kind of decorate or design their horse, where they put the markings and so forth, and then they go in and do the hair. That way they don't have to move the hair out of the way to do those, to add the color in there. But that's up to you. And these, the paper bags I got maybe 35 for a little over $1, and that was at Dollar General. You can find them at Dollar General. You can find them at Rural King. Those are the main 2 places I'd like to go to find those. And you may be able to find them in other places, but that's kind of just, I know where they're at in those places, so I just can go in and go right up to them, and it's fine. So that's kind of like what I do. I also like to talk about what they eat, and it's, like I said, it's in the Ag Mag, and then I ask them a couple questions, maybe like on snacks, like, oh, do they eat oatmeal? Of course, the students will say no. And then I go and, well, do they eat oats? And they go, well, and then they answer that point. But there's different lessons you can use. I have a lesson packet here as well if you'd like to message me. It just talks about classroom height and what kind of horse you would be at your height, and you can compare your height to a horse's height, and it kind of just transfers over. And just kind of get them used to maybe using a ruler, and this is like a clothing ruler right here. and that's a good one to use. But if you're interested in learning more about that, you could just contact me. And then recently I did pick up these horseshoes to kind of add into my lesson because I think these would be really nice. These I got at Rural King, and there's 2 in each pack. So I have 2 of the smaller ones, 2 of the bigger ones, and it was less than $10. But you don't have to have them if you don't want to, but you could just show photos of them. But this is to kind of show size comparison. This could be like a lightweight horse, or maybe, I wouldn't say pony because it's kind of big for a pony, of course, but this would be the heavyweight horses to kind of show the difference on size, you know, because it may be difficult for them to see, but if you want to talk about what a farrier does and that they trim the shoes and that the horse's feet are similar to toenails or fingernails like ours, this is just a good thing you can show, you know, just a horseshoe. And that way the students can have something that's more like a visual representation of horses. Okay, and then that's kind of what I normally cover. And then I do have this if you want to show this part to your students, that's fine. But this is kind of what I have as well. This is just an old bridle, and it doesn't have the bit on him because we were talking about what a horse may wear as well. And there's photos in your ag mag. This is a halter that is kind of taken apart. If you just give me 1 second, I'm gonna figure this out. Alrighty, so this is what a halter will look like. This one's kind of big for my horse. The difference between the two is you don't really put a bit in your your halter. I'm getting it mixed up now. So with your halter, you just use this to kind of lead horses around, and you just take them from maybe pasture to the barn, vice versa, or you just lead them around outside, whichever you want to do. There's different little buckles and such to kind of, you can use it however you want. You can kind of, what am I trying to say? You could take this part off to kind of slip it over their ears, and then you'd clip the bottom back on, or you can unbuckle the top, whichever way works best for you. There's certain types, and then the buckles are good for you to like resize them according to what size our head would be. Let me set that up there. So like I was saying, for a bridle, this would hold a bit. I have one. So this is just one type of bit, and you would have to unscrew these here, and you could put them in there, and this is where the bit would go. That bit would go in the horse's mouth, and it's just easier for, not really control, but to ask them if you want to do something, if you want them to do something. I'll just put that up there instead of quit messing with it. But this could be really cool if you want to include this as well. There's some bits out there you can get for about $10, or if you just know someone, you can bring that into your classroom. And then not all horses will have a bit when they ride. When they're being ridden, they could just have a bridleless situation. There's a lot of ways to ride horses. You don't have to have the bit. Some horses don't have to have anything when you ride them, but it really depends on the rider themselves and the horse at what level they are ready to be ridden at. But I do want to cover a couple things that I have here. So these here are for more like shedding. As you can see, you got some hair on it, and I'll just pick that up later. But this is great for pulling the hair off the horse they're losing it, kind of like a dog. They shed, so you got to make sure you're brushing them out. These are perfect for that, especially once winter's over and spring comes in and it starts to get warm. This is another good brush to kind of just break up any mud that might be on the horse. And then I did have another one. What was I trying to thought now? And this is another brush that's good for, these at that point are better for like dust particles. This one's more of a hard brush, so you would use those that I already shown you, then you'd use this one that has harder bristles. And this is a softer bristle that kind of finishes the job. And then for hooves, I have here 2 different picks. Both do the same job, but these are kind of to show you, this is what a hoof pick looks like. You go in and you pick up that horse's leg. And of course you don't do that to just any random horse. Make sure you know the horse and you have permission, of course. But you just pick the horse's hoof up, and then you just go ahead and you start scraping any mud or any manure that would be in that shoe, maybe even rocks. You might find a couple different random things in there, but let's hope that everything within that shoe is fine and it's not damaging their leg, because there could be some problems with that as well. And these are just the hoof picks. You can probably find them for a couple dollars at maybe Rural King or any store nearby that sells horse supplies or maybe feed supplies in general. And then this is the last thing I really have to show you. This is just a helmet. This helmet is worn pretty much like any bike helmet. I like to unscrew the back a little bit to loosen it up. I go ahead and put it on, and I tighten it again, and then I will just wear it as so. And you won't always see people wearing helmets. It's just up to the rider, up to the rider's parents, up to where the rider's riding at. So if you're at like a barn, boarding barn or something, maybe an arena, the owners there may want you to wear a helmet, and that's something you work out with them. But a helmet is great if that's what you decide to wear. I don't see any problems with it, but it's just up to you and up to them. Now I remember what I was going to say. Attached to the bridle are reins. These are the just one rein, loop rein kind of situation. You just clip them on, and then that's how you ride. There's a photo on the front of a Horse Ag Mag, or you can find plenty of photos online to show them. But this is just what you use to kind of ask for what direction you want the horse to go if they're not totally reliable on just leg pressure. And there's also split reins where there's just 2 of them and these aren't connected. But it is up to the rider on what they prefer to use and what they're using it for. So that's just a little bit about horses that could be a great aspect to bring in within your classroom. But don't forget that there are history. If I can open it. There we go. There's some history info in here that you can use, and that's great for students as well if you want to tie in history. And then, like I said, you have math that you can use to tie in with students' heights and horse heights. And then you have some vocabulary terms right here that you could tie in. And then on the back of every Ag Mag, there are, if I can find it, these are the learning standards right here. And it kind of shows you what learning standards you can tie in with it as well. And that's right next to the books you can use. And there's a couple different links, of course, at the bottom that might be able to assist you in creating your own lesson for your classroom.